What's up, guys? It's Brian McDonough. This is State of Soccer, and today is World Cup qualifier roster release day. One of the best days of the year, in my opinion. And guys, today I have a special guest, so let's get started. Welcome back, guys. It's State of Soccer, and on today's show, we're going to dive into the long-anticipated November World Cup qualifying roster. But before we do that, guys, I have a special guest joining us from across the pond. He's American. I think a lot of you guys are probably familiar with him. Jake, FIFAmerica, welcome to the show. What's going on?
Thank you. I'm impressed by that intro.
It actually went a lot smoother than I anticipated. Yeah. So what's up, man? Tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm sure a lot of we kind of have probably a little bit of a crossover with our subscribers, but
sure, yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know.
So yeah, for anyone that doesn't know me, I'm Jake Landau. I run a channel called FIFAmerica. It is really based around pragmatic approaches to the U.S. men's national team, taking a realistic view at what's happening with rosters, games, players. I am currently in the process of getting my UEFA B license while I live in England, and potentially a scouting license as well. So one of the things that I like to do on my channel is break down player performances and coaching strategies. So if you want to see, Yunus Musa, what his first touch looks like, how he gets out of trouble, how he condenses defenses and creates danger, that's a product that you would see, or some type of content that you would see on my channel. But yeah, all in all, we all love to talk about US soccer. We all love to grow the game and lower the barrier for as many fans to get excited about the team. And that's what I'm all about and what the channel's all about. Yeah, so thank you for having me.
Of course, man. And I got to say, from watching your channel, one thing I'll say is you do exactly that. I think there's a lot of, I'm not going to name names, but YouTube channels out there who just kind of throw wild accusations out there and whatnot, but you really do break it down tactically, which is what we need in this day and age of YouTubers, especially USMNT YouTubers. So you're doing a great job.
Thanks, man.
But all right, man, let's dive into what everyone wants to see, which is the World Cup qualifying roster released today, November 3rd at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. You're in London time over there. What time is it right now over there, Jake?
It is 4:30.
So yeah,
we had daylight savings a week early, so it messed everything up again. We're 4 hours ahead, but we'll be 5 hours once you guys get your clocks back as well.
Yeah, right now it's not too far off, 4 hours.
Yeah, not too bad.
All right, but your cat's back there getting hungry too, so it's almost dinner time. So
this one's Dax. Dax McCarty.
Dax McCaddy.
Dax McCaddy.
All right, man. Let's get it started here. First things first is the goalkeepers. I'll say it like it's really who we expected, right? Sean Johnson, Zach Steffen, Matt Turner. No Ethan Horvath, of course, over at Nottingham Forest. I'll leave it up to you, FIFAmerica. Dive into it right now. Between the two, Zach Steffen and Matt Turner, I haven't heard your side of things. Who do you personally prefer?
So it's a crazy question right now, because I feel like in my mind, I prefer Zach Steffen. I think he just gives you a tiny bit more in terms of overall quality with his feet, his ability to play out of the back. And just the only thing that's missing is him getting playing time. And I think Man City getting out of the Carabao Cup, I think 2 weeks ago to West Ham. Yeah, that's going to hurt his time getting playing time for Man City, because he does play in the Cups. So if I was picking my starting 11 against Mexico, I would actually go with Matt Turner, just because I feel a tiny bit safer with him between the posts, his saving quality and his run of form, having time. Like for a keeper, I really do think that that's important. So Matt Turner for me is probably the starter right now, but Zach Steffen to me has more overall quality. He just needs to get a bit more playing time and get in form again.
I like that assessment. Do you worry at all about Matt Turner's ability to play it out of the back, long passes, or do you think that's kind of overblown?
It's not overblown, so it's not overblown in terms of how poor he is with his feet, but he has gotten better recently. I will say that. But the part that is overblown is how much that matters when he's on the field.
Sure.
I think when Zach Steffen is playing goalkeeper for us, we are set up to play out of the back more. you can see our center backs and our wing backs will drop deeper to receive the ball from Zach Steffen. But when Matt Turner plays, we're not trying to play the same way out of the back. We might still try and build from the back, or if the attackers aren't pressuring him or our defense, he'll be able to make those short passes. But if we're playing against Mexico and they're playing a high press, I mean, tomato, Zach Steffen, Matt Turner, we're probably going to be playing it a bit longer, a bit more direct anyway. So for me, again, Matt Turner, that's just one of the reasons why I would have him there now.
Okay, we'll get to my starting 11 in a little bit, so I'll give you my thoughts, and then you can kind of dive into. We'll splash it up on the screen
for sure,
just a little bit. But let's take a look at the defenders now. Rolling into that, obviously the biggest inclusion, guys, is Joe Scally. Everyone's been asking for him to be included for the past 2 camps for these World Cup qualifiers. Well, he is there after his play with Borussia Mönchengladbach. Additionally, we see Sam Vines back in the fold here after making the move over to Belgium. DeAndre Edlin, Walker Zimmerman, Miles Robinson, Anthony Robinson, Chris Richards, Mark McKenzie, Reggie Canyon. Thing that I right now notice right off the bat here at FIFAmerica is that there's no John Brooks. So John Brooks was most likely excluded from this roster, and in his place is Mark McKenzie. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, if I was building my starting 11 preferred with everyone that is healthy right now, so basically everyone bar Gio Reyna, John Brooks for me is still in that starting 11. So to not see him be, I guess in Greg's mind, one of the top 4 center backs in the pool is, I guess, like what I think a lot about Greg is that what I would consider to be mind-boggling is kind of what I just expect from him in terms of his roster selection at this point. Like in my mind, it's mind-boggling how John Brooks isn't in the top 4 center backs in a coach's mind right now. And at the same time, I'm not surprised. Like it did surprise me that he's not on the roster, but then I'm not really surprised that Greg would make that decision.
I'm not surprised either, but I will say I know that Mark McKenzie earlier this season was getting a lot of minutes over in Belgium. But as of late, correct me if I'm wrong, I've seen his run of form and he's been struggling a little bit too. I know that John Brooks consistently in the obviously Bundesliga matches week after week had a dry spell where he wasn't doing too well, but recently he's really picked it up in that Champions League match against Red Bull Salzburg. He looked fantastic. This is strange to me, this exclusion, and especially one of the only guys, unless we were to bring in Julian Green, who would have, well, I guess there's DeAndre Edlin there, would have actual World Cup experience too, FIFAmerica. So a guy, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, if one of the things that strikes me about this roster is just the inability to tell from a player's perspective what the bar is to make these. So if you look at someone like Jesus Ferreira, who is in form, but kind of a fringe player on this roster, and then you think about someone like Mark McKenzie, who played 1 game in October, versus John Brooks, who has played. Maybe he hasn't been great, but the last 2 games he's been much better. That to me, like if I'm a player, I don't really understand what I need to do to get on the roster. If I'm playing well or if I'm playing better than someone in a worse league, but I'm not called in, and then someone like Jesus Ferreira, again, not saying that Ferreira doesn't deserve to be on the roster, but like where is the line for kind of what form matters to the coach and what stability and experience matters to the coach? And in both of those cases, John Brooks kind of ticks the boxes for me. So he's definitely one of the people that I'm most surprised isn't on this roster.
I'd love to be a fly on that wall too for that conversation. I mean, John Brooks is a pretty intimidating guy. Like, what's it, Greg just calling up John Brooks and being, "Hey, John, I'm not including you in the most important game of the World Cup qualifiers against Mexico. I know you've been playing and have had a good run of go recently, played excellent against Salzburg, but unfortunately, you're not going to be in this camp." As the conversation
and guess what? Mark McKenzie, who hasn't played at all. This did come out like a few minutes before we were talking, but John Brooks put out a statement that said basically something to the effect that he hasn't had good games for the US lately, and he's not surprised that he's not on the roster, and he needs to do better. So it's basically John Brooks taking accountability for his performances. But even then, I'm like, that's a high road. I kind of want a leader like that in the camp, and he can give something on the field.
Right, that's the leader you're looking for. I think he has a place, obviously, in the starting 11 when the World Cup in Qatar rolls around. Granted, if we qualify, but I think we'll get there. And let's talk about Joe Scally. Serginho Dest
Sure.
is missing; he's injured, so that is a late exclusion. That was just communicated recently. Joe Scally should fill that void there, and I'm expecting him to do quite well. What do you think of his form as of late in the Bundesliga?
Yeah, I love him at Gladbach.
Yeah,
Again, if you're interested in watching breakdown videos, I have one on Joe Scally that was done recently. But essentially, he's extremely solid and has a great foundational skill set for a wingback. And he can play basically all four wide defender positions. He can play right back, right wing back, left wing back. I am a little bit worried that just based on how this roster was constructed, that he was put on this roster because of Dest's injury.
sure.
Like I'm a little scared that in another world, Dest is healthy and Joe Scally isn't on this roster.
You really think so?
I do. Like if I just look at the other names and how the rest of the roster was constructed, you have Sam Vines, who is now playing in Europe, now healthy, but has been one of Greg's guys.
Sure.
Jedi is not a concern for me, but someone like Reggie Cannon, he hasn't gotten like any minutes at Boa Vista in Portugal. And then he finally got to start and got subbed off 18 minutes into the last game. So again, it's just like I'm wondering where Greg's head is at when he's picking these guys. And for me, Joe Scally, if I'm putting myself in Greg's shoes and how he is thinking, Joe Scally might be the last person on this roster that I'm taking.
It's very true. I think this is the second time now that Greg has been bailed out by injuries. If you remember that game against Costa Rica, and I just double checked that match against Costa Rica, Paul Arriola was in the starting lineup at right winger, and then he went down with an injury right before the match, and Weah was slotted in. And I know that USMNT Twitter, and we would have erupted over that. Can you imagine, though, if you are correct, and that he would have been excluded once again, which would be mind-boggling, but very likely.
He is on the roster, so I'm happy. And who knows what would have happened, but yeah, I'm very happy with Joe Scally on the roster.
It's fun. It's fun to imagine, honestly, just for raw entertainment value.
Exactly.
Just scrolling through Twitter.
I guess the last point I'll make on that is if that is the case, and if he was the last person to join the roster in Greg's mind, I would not be surprised to see a similar USMNT Twitter eruption when Joe Scally gets 0 minutes in these two games.
Yeah. Well, I put him in my starting 11. We'll get there. So we'll take a look at that. But I think there's a chance that he doesn't get any minutes. Anything else you want to add? Obviously, we saw that Sam Vines is included. DeAndre,
I guess I would just ask you what you think about the center back core. So we're bringing 4 center backs. What do you think?
I think we're going to see Miles Robinson at a left center back position, or excuse me, Chris Richards at left center back and Miles Robinson at right center back. I think that duo is what we'll see just based off of the fact that we saw them feature together versus Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Obviously, Miles Robinson had that little blip or that error and turnover in the midfield, but he recovered well in that match. But that's very unlike him. Typically, he's very athletic, a good defender. There was one point where we were just calling for Chris Richards to be included in these World Cup qualifiers. Well, he's here and he's going to start. I think it would have been a Miles Robinson, John Brooks duo had John Brooks been included. But I believe we'll see the two Richards and Robinson at center back. What do you think?
Yeah. I'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
It's you might feel this way, same as me, but just trying to break down these rosters and think about what I would want and then what Greg would do. Sometimes I think those are wildly different, but in this case, I think really it's just Walker Zimmerman if Greg decides that he wants to go with someone that he trusts and he knows and he's seen. But in my mind, like there's no way that Walker Zimmerman is better right now or more prepared for Mexico than Chris Richards and Miles Robinson.
It's very likely we could see a Robinson-Zimmerman duo too.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised by that.
Yeah.
All right, let's move over to the midfield where we have a lot of questions here for Greg, like always. Just to round up the names, Kelly Nacoste, Tyler Adams, Gianluca Busio, Sebastian Lletget, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, and Christian Roldan. This is where the drama ensues FIFAmerica. This is where like people's blood starts boiling when it comes to Greg's selections here. The selections is one thing, who he plays is another. I still think we'll see that dual number 8 of Weston McKennie and Yunus Musa, just based off of how well it's been working with Tyler Adams slotting back in the 6. That's personally what I think we'll see, especially against Mexico, against Jamaica. If we take the Panama approach and we don't play our best players, you might see something different. But I think we learned our lesson there, hopefully. Your thoughts, and I want to get your thoughts. We talked a little bit before the show started on Roldan, Leggett, and we'll even throw Kelly and Acosta in there. Just those 3 guys. I have no issues with Kelly and Acosta, but especially Leggett and Roldan. Your thoughts on the 2 of those players?
Yeah, I think you have to look at those players in the scope of where they play on the field or what they'll be asked to do in this system. So exactly like you said, for Kelly and Acosta, yeah, maybe he's not at the quality at the top of this roster, but we really don't have anyone else that can back up Tyler Adams and give us a solid game in CONCACAF. Now, many people might argue that Gianluca Busio could be ready to play the 6. I've watched a lot of Venezia this year, and he really does play an 8. He's not really playing as defensively as a lot of people seem to think. And then the other 2 that are a bit more controversial, Sebastian Leggett and Christian Roldan. For me, if I'm taking them in order, Christian Roldan has a ton of versatility. I'm not saying he's the most talented person. I'm not even saying he's deserving. I'm just saying that he fits a lot of variables that this team could face. So he could play on the wing. He can play attacking mid. He can play an 8.
Okay.
I think even on FIFA, he's a center defensive mid. So I don't know where they got that from. But essentially, he can play 4 or 5 different positions. And he's at a level where it's okay for a substitute in CONCACAF. So
that's a good point you're making. Versatile midfielder, opposed to a guy that really can only play one position. And that's a take I don't really hear from many USMNT YouTubers when they build out the roster. I think ultimately it's kind of the knee-jerk reaction. Oh, Roldan's back on the roster. Are you kidding me? He's an MLS guy, which I have no issues with MLS. Roldan's been playing really well this year in MLS. And like you said, he's versatile. I guess my only criticism for him is he doesn't typically play well for the U.S., it seems like.
He hasn't been able to fit it all together.
Exactly. It could be there. He could be a great locker room guy, but if Brooks is being left off this roster due to the fact that he isn't performing well for the U.S. when he's on the field, then what do we make of Christian Roldan, right? Another guy we left off is you mentioned it before the show, is Jackson Ewell, right? So that's this player that can play a couple different positions.
Yeah, and if we take Leggett as kind of everything we said about Christian Roldan, Sebastian Leggett is guilty of like 5 more sins than Christian Roldan is, which is why I am somewhat okay with Roldan. It doesn't matter anymore. I think for me, you mentioned Ewell. Greg has shown the ability to phase out different players, whether that's Jackson Ewell, whether that's Michael Bradley, whether that's anyone that hasn't been up to the standard or up to par for this team. And I think we have seen enough of Sebastian Leggett at this point, especially with the other players that are available. I think Luca De La Torre is very deserving, had an amazing game against Ajax and has been playing well in the Eredivisie in the Netherlands. Even someone like Jordi Mihalovic, who is like the leading American assist provider in MLS this year. He's young. He has a lot of talent. He has a lot to provide, and he plays a similar position to Sebastian Leggett. So for me, it's like I don't see Leggett having a role on this team anymore, where I do see that for Christian Roldan. And there's no reason to not phase out Leggett at this point when you have, Kellen Acosta is going to back up Tyler Adams at the 6. Gianluca Busio is going to back up whoever needs rest at the 8. Christian Roldan can play all of those roles. Why is Sebastian Leggett there?
He doesn't create anything, right? That's ultimately what he is. He's a distributor, but he doesn't. There's really no spark coming from Sebastian Leggett. I don't think like I said, I was about to say I don't think you'll see the field, but that's you likely will.
You never know.
You never know, right? So I just hope we do see a little bit of Gianluca Busio. The other guy's playing well for Venezia is Tanner Tessman as well. He's getting some starts over there.
Got his first start over the weekend. Played well at the 6, by the way.
Yeah, right.
And I think another name that we could probably talk about is Christian Kappus, who is playing in, I believe, Denmark. They're in the Europa League. He is, continually getting goals from the center midfielder position. But I guess for you, like if Sebastian Lletget wasn't on the roster, is there one name that you would put there instead?
Luca De La Torre, personally.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's missing from the last group. I don't know what he did to deserve to be dropped for these rounds of matches, right?
He came to camp and then he played better when he returned to Heracles.
So that's my answer. What, if anything, though, Greg has every player in the player pool scratching their head, fighting and clawing, saying, none of this makes sense. I could be dropped at any time. What do I need to do? I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But it's definitely not a good thing, but he's definitely creating this angst amongst the players. I would assume, unless the communication is there. Right. And I don't know what communication is being had. So let's move on to the forwards. Brendan Aronson, who I just came out with a recent episode. I try to take more of a FIFAmerica approach on that and tactically break him down. He's my personal favorite player on the roster, just because I am a Union fan, but we won't get into that. Paul Arriola, Jesus Ferreira, Ricardo Pepi, Christian Pulisic is back, and then everyone's favorite, Timothy Weah. All right. So first things first, Jesus Ferreira, a player that I believe we last saw him against Costa Rica in a friendly, maybe last year.
So he has 2 caps for the US, 2 goals as well.
Yeah.
So he showed out when he's worn the uniform.
And he's showing out in MLS. Father's, former MLS MVP, David Ferreira. Not that that makes any difference, but just fun fact for you. Maybe that's why he's included in this roster. But then again, no, he's a good player. He's young. He's still very young. In a different scenario, I think he's definitely deserving. But to call him up against Mexico and Jamaica in this highly important camp, right, where ultimately the top 4 teams are separated by like 4 points right now, for qualification. Yeah. I don't know if it's the best move, personally.
Yeah, something I talked a lot about before this roster came out and as we got closer to this camp is that one of the reasons why I thought John Brooks was a lock, for instance, was because this is the time, if, say, all talent is equal.
Yeah.
Now is the time against Mexico when you would rather play someone with 6 years, 8 years of experience rather than Chris Richards. Like, in my mind, against Mexico, if John Brooks was on this roster, I would probably go with John Brooks because they're of similar quality, but this is where I want experience. But for someone like Jesus Ferreira, that kind of goes out the window. Like,
yeah,
there is no experience anymore. And similar to what I was saying before about there not really being a bar to set expectations for players on knowing what you need to do to get on this roster. Ferreira is a head scratcher for me because he plays almost a pure 10, like a position that Greg rarely ever plays, if ever. I don't know if I've ever seen a US team lineup with a 10 before.
I can't recall any recently, at least over the past 12 months.
Yeah,
maybe in some one-off friendly,
To have that and then to have Ricardo Pepi be the only number 9 on the roster. I guess they'll have good chemistry when they're on the field, but I doubt that we'll play with a 10. So it's just like a roster spot that still leaves me scratching my head where I'm okay with the player getting on the roster based on his form and based on his ability. It just it doesn't make sense when you look at the rest of the roster and there's no consistency with how Greg seems to be making decisions.
What doesn't make sense is only having one true number 9 on this roster as well, right? Like, what if Pepi, knock on wood, I don't even know if this is wood, I think it's fake, but somewhere
it'll still work.
It still works. If Pepi gets injured, I mean, I guess we're playing, domestic in Cincinnati, and then Jamaica's not too far away. but you should prep for that, in my opinion. Very, very strange. Zardes is not included in this roster, which is
I think Zardes is still coming off of an injury.
yeah.
But you can still easily make the case for Josh Sargent, Jordan Pefok.
Yeah,
I know they're not scoring a bunch, but they're capable strikers. So
I have an obscene amount, Jake, of Norwich City subscribers because I did a Josh Sargent episode a long time ago, and I constantly in my Discord talk to them, say I want to get updates. How's Josh doing? How's Josh doing? Because I feel like when you're a bottom 3 team in the Premier League, you don't get much love. And everyone just sees, his missed opportunity a couple weeks back where he was wide open on goal, didn't put enough oomph into the shot. But other than that, I've been hearing only good things about Josh as far as day in and day out being one of the best players on a very, very poor squad. I don't necessarily think he's performing that poorly. He's not putting the ball in the back of the net. Will we see Josh Sargent ever again under Greg Berhalter in this World Cup qualifying phase?
Maybe.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, and especially with the just amount of erratic choices that I feel like are on this, it's really just a head scratcher because you listen to Greg's podcast where he to his credit, he did take accountability for him and his coaching staff for the game in Panama, saying he made the wrong choices. Yes, the players didn't show up, but he didn't put them in a position to succeed. But for me, like when you're looking at roster construction, this is a consistent problem now. I think it was the Gold Cup where we brought two wide players that could play wing, and then one of them got hurt. And I think one of them was, I'm forgetting his name, Jonathan. I'm forgetting his name, but plays for Colorado Rapids.
Oh man. I'm forgetting now. See, this is what happens. I'm forgetting his name too, but Jonathan Lewis.
Okay.
Jonathan
Lewis. There you go. Okay, so he calls in for the Gold Cup, and one of them is
for that first match. Jonathan Lewis did start that first match, and
people
were going nuts.
So it's for me, like I just can't understand. I can't fathom that he's going to go into the Panama game and learn a lesson about that, but he's going to take nothing away from roster construction, from only bringing 1 or 2 players in a position. It's just, again, like it's very erratic in how he seems to be making decisions and going about business as this coach.
Very erratic. Let's take a look at my decision on my starting 11. Guys, I threw this together in like 10 minutes. So it's a very basic formation here. We can pick it apart. It's specific, especially FIFAmerica, with your assessment of Joe Scally out wide and the center backs duo. I'm a little worried about Mexico's attack, ultimately. And Scally's capabilities against the Tecatito or against, Lozano, and just his ability to kind of control that. Also with the inexperience of a center back duo. And with Anthony Robinson struggling a little bit defensively 1v1. So let's take a look here. I'm going to stop my screen and we'll throw up the starting 11. Not throw up. That'd be obscene on a live stream.
Throw it on.
That would go viral.
I don't know if YouTube's TOS will allow you to show that.
All right. Starting 11. Like I said, threw it together right before the show, guys. We're going live an hour after the World Cup qualifying roster was released. Now, we'll start off with the goalkeeper position, Jake. Zach Steffen for me is starting over Matt Turner. I've said it before, and I know you don't think it's as big of a deal, but the ability to play it out back. I also think that Zach will 100% be our goalkeeper in Qatar. So I want some consistency at the goalkeeping position. And as of late, even though obviously Manchester City did bow out of cup play, he still has been getting some reps. So I'd like to continue to see him get reps there at goalie. Center back duo, Chris Richards, Miles Robinson, like we talked about previously. We could see Walker Zimmerman, right? And feel free, Jake, to kind of, butt in at any point in time.
I mean, overall, I like it.
Okay, you like it overall?
But yeah, keep walking through.
Yeah, we have Anthony Robinson out left back position. We have Joe Scally making his USMNT debut. One of 7 guys from the 2019 U20 US roster to be on this recent list for November World Cup qualifiers, which I thought was pretty cool. So the youth is definitely here, as we know. Joe Scally at right back. And then we're going with Tyler Adams. Who else at 6? Dual number 8, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, just because of the success they've had together. And they're really exciting to watch together. Christian Pulisic is back out wide. For any of you who didn't see him play against Malmo, he looked pretty dangerous, I thought, overall. I mean, for the 15 minutes he came in, he looked like himself. He did miss an opportunity that I think probably would have been offsides anyway. But overall, I think that his first touch was there. He looks like he's back in decent form, quickness, agility, everything was there. I don't really know if the injury is going to hamper him much, but I'd be curious to see how much time he gets, right? So we'll kind of take that into consideration. Ricardo Pepi at the number 9 position, our striker. No one to back him up on this roster right now, so I think he is definitely going to be our guy.
That's a safe choice.
Safe choice. And then I have Aronson out on the right wing. I guess you could throw Weah up there. You could do a couple different things, but based off of his recent form, based off of how consistent he is, the most consistent player for this USMNT squad, in my opinion, I have Brendan Aronson out there on the right wing. So, FIFAmerica, your turn, your take. What do you think?
So, in terms of the Zach Steffen, Matt Turner conversation, I think just to finalize that is basically I'm happy with both.
Okay,
you really can't go wrong. The challenge with the Mexico game.
Can I say something about Zach Steffen?
Yeah, please.
What did Zach Steffen do to you guys? Like, I feel like everyone's very aggressive towards him. I just noticed on Twitter, not you, America, but it just seems like
I'm wondering what I've said in my past.
It's just interesting to me. I mean, all he's done is show up and play well. And same thing with Matt Turner. Like I said, I'm happy with either one. Both seem to be great guys, great teammates, great players for the US.
Yeah.
So I don't
basically,
think
if Sean Johnson starts this game, then I'll be upset. If Zach Steffen or Matt Turner start the game, then I'm happy. The challenge with the Mexico game is really going to be that where we are strong in our midfield and our wide players, Mexico is weak, and where Mexico is strong, we are weak. And if you put those 11 together, it's probably we have an advantage of 4 or 5 players, and they have an advantage of 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
So especially with Dest out, I would say Scally for me is still the starter when I consider Reggie Cannon and DeAndre Yedlin. I know it's going to be his first cap for the US, but I agree with you that week in and week out, he is playing against Serge Gnabry, Leroy Sané, Lewandowski, all the players in the Bundesliga. Alphonso Davies is going to be a player that he comes up with, and he did come up against him in the DFB Pokal, and Gladbach won that game 5-0. So Scally to me is ready. He is ready. He has stepped into every single scenario and situation and done well. And if our midfield can just kind of keep the team together, give Pulisic and Aronson a chance, then we are in a position where we can win this game. But I think Tax said this, but basically there's a 33% chance that we win, 33% chance that we lose, and 33% chance that we draw. And in that, I do agree with him on that scenario.
On that assessment. In other words, you're saying you believe it's really that even right now.
I do. It's just like we don't have Gio Reyna. We don't have Serginho Dest now. And if we were 2 years out and everyone was 2 years older with 2 more years of professional experience under them, these FIFA ratings are all 5 to 8 points higher.
Well, I sort of
I'm not going by FIFA. I'm just saying there is lots of improvement to be made. And I think we do need to be realistic at times that no matter how good and no matter how talented we know this team to be, younger players are going to be less consistent than older players. So we're capable. We're more than capable of beating this Mexico team. I want to make that clear. This Mexico team is not the crazy, scary team that we played in the past. They have very good players, but so do we. And this should be an even game.
Looking at these FIFA ratings for a couple seconds here, what do you think Ricardo Pepi's actual FIFA rating should be?
Probably like 73, 74 would be fair. Yunus Musa is difficult, and same with Aronson, because they're on Champions League and Europa League level teams. I think they're just rated that because they're young. I'm a big FIFA player, so
yeah. Musa kind of came out of nowhere last year, you could argue, but I guess so did Aronson, considering he was in MLS. I mean, he was a best 11 player 2 years ago, so he really hasn't come anywhere. I think both ratings are low for them.
Yeah.
Scally, of course, should get an upgrade anytime soon. Yeah, we won't
maybe
keep
in
going
the winter.
Yeah, maybe in the winter. Yeah, we won't keep going in the FIFA ratings, but so that's I mean, any other possible formation that you think we could see, or you just 4-3-3, stick to that, stick to what we have here.
So we did succeed against Mexico at times with a 3 in the back formation.
Yeah.
Sorry, hold on, my cat is stuck on microphone. Okay, now he's unstuck himself.
This is why we don't go live. So
exactly. Yeah. Okay, so I think the 4-3-3 is definitely the way to go here. But in the summer, when we played them in the 2 finals, there were points where we played a 3 in the back. Sure. I think what I'm seeing from the roster is that because we only have 4 center backs, we're not going to play a 3 in the back formation. But anything can happen. But for me, like, the lesson learned from last window is play this roster, play these players in their best position in a 4-3-3, let them go out and perform to the best of their ability.
Consistency is key, in my opinion. I just still wonder if we will see Reggie Cannon out at the right back position.
Yeah, even DeAndre Edlin, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, I guess we'd see DeAndre over Reggie, but yeah, I'd be okay with DeAndre Edlin. I really would. I don't have much against him, to be honest. All right, well, that does it for the starting 11 there, my starting 11. Let's take a real quick look at the schedule. We'll do predictions, and then we'll wrap things up on the November World Cup qualifier reaction show, as if we'd like to call it that. All right, guys, so here are the matches. November 12th, November 16th. Of course, the 12th we have Mexico, the 16th we have Jamaica. So only 2 matches in this World Cup qualifying window opposed to the usual 3. So the players will get a little bit of rest in between, 4 days in between these 2 matches. Match versus Mexico will be on domestic U.S. soil in Cincinnati. Match versus Jamaica will be in Kingston, Jamaica. They are also allowing fans down in Jamaica. I know FIFAmerica, that was kind of blown out of proportion at one point. Everyone was excited. No fans for Jamaica, but now the Jamaican government is allowing individuals who have COVID vaccine to attend the match. So if I have any Jamaican subscribers and you have the COVID vaccine, you should go to that match. But that's what we got. Games are on ESPN2 against Mexico, Paramount, everyone's favorite, Paramount Plus and Universo on, especially Paramount Plus, on the 16th against Jamaica. FIFAmerica, where are you going to be watching these games from?
Right here in this chair. It's going to be like 2 a.m.
Is Passyunk bar open at 2 a.m. or?
No, it's not. It's not. Bars close pretty early here. It's a weird phenomenon.
Yeah.
But Passyunk Ave is not open. If anyone doesn't know, that's a Philadelphia native-owned bar near London Bridge in the middle of London. But yes, I will be in this chair. I will be streaming with a safe VPN. Hopefully the federal agents watching this don't come and arrest me. But yeah, that 9 p.m. Eastern time is going to be 2 a.m.
That's early,
time.
man.
So yeah, that 5 p.m. Jamaica game is looking pretty good for me.
At least it's a Friday. At least it's a Friday night or a Saturday morning for you against Mexico. It could be worse.
Yeah.
Could be like a Wednesday night
early. Yeah.
So guys, there you have it. Real quick, your predictions for both matches. And before we get there, on Sunday, guys, I'm doing a show live with Ryan LFC, Jamaican YouTuber, and Owen Deanna, who was on my show previously, who is a English Mexican reporter, He's American, but he supports Mexico and lives in Boston and covers everything in English is what I mean. So he'll be joining us live on Sunday night. So I look forward to that. Predictions, FIFAmerica, for the USA versus Mexico match on the 12th.
As much as I want to say there's going to be a resurgence of Dos Acero in Cincinnati,
Okay.
I think it'll probably be 1-0 or 2-1 US against Mexico, which would be a huge result. That would be a fantastic result for the US. But I am expecting a very close game.
Expecting a very close game. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw.
Okay, fair.
That's what I think. 1-1 draw in Cincinnati. And then a game that I'm personally kind of worried about because Jamaica's coming off a victory. They're back in contention to qualify. For whatever it's worth, Kamar Lawrence said they're going to qualify. So what do you think of Jamaica versus US?
Yeah, I agree with you completely. It's one that I'm worried about. I think that could be a 1-1 draw as well. Again, they are very strong in the attack where we're not that great.
Yeah.
But the middle of their park is like, we will destroy them in the middle of the field. I mean, not in the scoreline if we play the MMA midfield against Jamaica, but I worry that we're going to have to bring our best 11 against Mexico, and then Greg's going to want to rest some guys against Jamaica. So 1-1 draw is probably a fair result in Jamaica.
Okay. So you think we pick up 4 points in these two matches, most likely?
I hope that we do.
Okay. And I think we'll see a 3-1 victory in Kingston, Jamaica for the US. So I think also
Nice.
4 points, draw versus Mexico, and a win versus Jamaica. But guys, that does it for today's November World Cup qualifying reaction show. FIFAmerica, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No, it was a lot of fun. And guys, make sure to subscribe to FIFAmerica and the State of Soccer. And with that, go USMNT. And as always, the most important thing you can do is support your local club. Talk to you guys later.